Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 10:44 a.m. East Coast time, Wednesday, August 21st. Over my shoulder, I'm going to be having this in a couple of videos. Every single main breakdown, my final thoughts video. The schedule will be out for the NFL season very shortly, the regular season. But I want to cover just one, show you the target offense sheet. It's up. We had it for the NBA. We had it for the MLB. It's live for the NFL, and then I'm going to go through I have the other positions, position by position stat sheets for the players. Those are going to be coming. Those are all going to be in the videos. They're going to all be available on Patreon, some more in-depth stuff on Patreon as well. But I'm excited. I'm going to be doing something different today. So welcome to the channel. If you are new here and just discovering me, my name is Sal Vetri. I do cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, MLB, golf a little bit, all of those avenues and sites. And today I want to take a first look at a site that you might not play too much on, might be a little bit familiar with, but FantasyDraft. They introduced a couple, really recently, within the past couple of months, rake-free DFS. So when you're playing on Draftkings, you're playing on FanDuel, the average person is losing 30%. Yes, you put $100 in, on average, you're going to lose $30 of that money if you're just an average player in DFS. If you're not winning hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, if you're an average DFS player, maybe you squeak out some profits, you're losing 30% to rake in those tournaments. So FantasyDraft, and we'll go over to them right now. I just want to show you the target offense sheets. This is their lobby, just made the account with them. I honestly have not played through FantasyDraft yet, but I'm going to put more money over here in the NFL. I'm going to show you why. And really, I'm going to show you why their week one contest, we'll take a first look at their week one salaries, is going to be so good. But they have this $1 million tournament right here, and they have just subscription packages now to where you can just pay monthly to not have rake. And honestly, it comes out to saving you much, much more money. You're saving like 25% rake, if not higher, depending on how much you play. So with this said, this is the first week. We're going to take a look at it. I'm going to try and reference over here to my target offense sheet to kind of identify maybe some stacks we can look at, and really a first look on FantasyDraft. And look, the reason I want to do this is, look, it's rake-free, but look at this. This is the contest structure, or the contest payout structure. It's $1 million tournament. $100,000 is going to first, 10% to first. You can't beat that. So you win first, you're still winning $100K, but you're not winning $400 or $300K. $300K, like Draftkings is going 30% to first in so many other tournaments. You're going to, like the Millie Maker, you're going to have so much more equity for the rest of the field if you don't bink first. 26% of this field, 26.3% of the payout money is in the top 10. That's really good. You go to DraftKings, you're going to get 30% to first place or 25% to first place. So everything in the top 10 is going to be split out. Instead of going to first place, 25%, it's going to be in the top 10 on this site. This is a really good contest. I don't know how often they're going to run these. I don't know if there's just a big promotion getting people like myself to promote it for week one. But I'm going to be in there quite a bit because they're paying out 26% to top 10. They're paying out like 25% of the overall field is going to get paid in this, and then 26% of the actual payout money is going to the top 10, 10% to first. This is an amazing contest structure, in my opinion. You go from 100K to 60K for second, that's fine. 40K for third, and then so on and so forth down. 10th place, you're still winning $2,500. In a DraftKings tournament, 10th place, if it's the same size as $1 million prize pool, you'll be lucky if you're kind of taking like 1,000 at that point. So yes, this is a very good contest overall. We're giving you 1 million reasons to play rake-free DFS. This is really cool. The top 10,000 finishers will cash in the $1 million guaranteed prize pool. So let's do a first look. The salaries are obviously going to be different. We'll reference over here for the teams that are on this, all the slates. I have every single team. This is using obviously some 2018 data, but let's reference it. Let's look at the first look on FantasyDraft. So we'll go through each position. I did this for Draftkings, and it seemed to go over pretty well so far. This released Draftkings probably yesterday, a couple days ago, depending on when this video will come out. But hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Down below, you can take the link to get into this contest, as well as, depending on when you're watching this, preseason week 3, Thursday, if you're watching this in time, they have a free $20,000 free roll. You just play for free and you can win some money. So I'm already in that, so make sure to get into these contests. Yeah, it's just such good payout structures, it's really hard to ignore. If this was on DraftKings, this would be by far the best contest on DraftKings in terms of payout structures, your actual odds of winning, and how the wealth is being distributed in those contests. So with that said, let's get into it. Happy to brief you on that. And yeah, quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be the most expensive on DraftKings and the most expensive on FantasyDraft. So I really don't have much interest in Patrick Mahomes, to be honest. I think he can win tournaments, but I want to go down where you're going to get value. There's no value in playing Patrick Mahomes. They priced him up. He's at his highest price point like he was last year in the $7,000 range on DraftKings, in this mid $13,000 range on FantasyDraft. I have no reason to want to get to Patrick Mahomes in week 1. Yes, I know he's a good player. Still, facing Jacksonville, difficult defense. But I have no reason to want to get to him. And if we go to overall Jacksonville here, KC, Jacksonville last year, they only gave up 16.6 fantasy points a game to the quarterback. That's well below average for the league. I get it. It's Patrick Mahomes. But the point I'm trying to drive home is week 1, you want to attack the value. Patrick Mahomes does not provide you value, and you don't have to attack it everywhere, but there's so many valuable quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, even tight ends on this slate that we're going to build a first-look lineup. And I really want to get value. So players that you're going to see undervalued on Fantasy Draft right now, and the one that stands out, like Tom Brady, overpriced. Even on the scoring settings on Fantasy Draft, still don't make Russell Wilson and Tom Brady top 3 quarterbacks on the slate. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Players that are very underpriced on this slate, Baker Mayfield, $11,900, being priced as like the 10th most expensive quarterback right now on Fantasy Draft, very underpriced. And then if you scroll down, what Fantasy Draft is doing is they're very much undervaluing the rushing quarterback, in my opinion, to start off. I don't know if this is going to change, but Lamar Jackson, even Dak, Kyler Murray, who's going to be at least hopefully a star, first overall pick. These rushing quarterbacks, even Josh Allen to an extent, but they're very undervalued. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to throw Lamar Jackson into the start of my lineup right here. So you get Lamar Jackson as our quarterback. The difference is also you have 2 flexes here, which makes it very interesting. You can get to a lot more running back upside wide receivers. So running back, pass catching running backs is what I should say. So in Fantasy Draft, yes, I'm interested in getting to the flex more so in terms of getting pass catching running backs who have RB1 upside with also wide receiver 1 upside when they're getting 7 to 10 targets like a Saquon, like a McCaffrey, whoever else it might be. So Lamar Jackson, he's going to be like an RB1 for you out there if he gets 10 carries a game, which is what they're kind of game planning for, against Miami, who, if we quickly reference over to the target offense sheet, again, we're looking at last year's data, but Miami was giving up 20 points a game last year to the quarterback position. They were one of, if I look really quickly, only one of 7 teams or 6 teams to be giving up 20-plus fantasy points a game to the quarterback position. Yes, Lamar Jackson makes a lot of sense early on. We can keep going down. You can keep finding some value. I think Sam Darnold offers a lot of value week 1, being very just overlooked and underrated. But we're going to go with Lamar Jackson. His rushing upside of potentially 50 rushing yards per game this year is just way too good to pass up when you also pair in the fact that it's a good matchup against Miami. And then you also take into account that he's had a whole off season to kind of work through some things with that new offense. Running backs. So we talked about it. You get 2 flexes. I'm going to just try and load the hell up on running backs, to be completely honest with you. Now, Saquon Barkley, Zeke, we don't know what's going on with Zeke right now. We're about 2 weeks away from the regular season opener. I don't think Zeke's going to play unless Jerry Jones folds early. I don't think Zeke's going to be folding. He's in Cabos. He's just doing his thing out there. He has loads of money coming in. Obviously, he wants more money long term. But right now, if shit was to hit the fan, he can last a couple of weeks, and that's kind of what he wants to do, is put pressure on this team. But this team does have Tony Pollard. So as I kind of talked about on DraftKings, I do want to get to Tony Pollard. And look, obviously, if Tony Pollard is not going to be the starting running back and it's going to be Zeke, then don't be getting to Tony Pollard. And let me just find out where Tony Pollard is in here. This might actually help easier. Let's go to Tony Pollard. Bang. See if he pops up that way. So I want to get to Tony Pollard because, look, if Zeke's out, this guy's going to shoulder all the load for this team. Yeah, I don't know where Tony Pollard is. I'm trying to search it. But as we look forward, Tony Pollard will be the guy who is going to get all 3 down work. Jerry Jones has already said Tony Pollard, we have full faith in him that if Zeke is not going to be out there, we have full faith that this guy can handle the load. He's $8,200 right now. He's priced in the range of all the backups, and he's just way too cheap if he's going to be the main guy, obviously. And this is what I mean by you have so much value. Now, a week from now, if you're watching this video and Zeke has signed and he's going to be the starter out there, well, obviously my expectations are going to change. It won't be Tony Pollard. Maybe we can build a lineup with both of them. But right now, the best running back in the entire value range in terms of being cheap, below 8,500 on Fantasy Draft, below 5,000 on DraftKings, is by far Tony Pollard. There's going to be a lot of value wide receivers, but it's definitely Tony Pollard. Let's look into this. If we see Dallas facing the Giants gave up 18 fantasy points, 18.4 fantasy points per game last year. That was a little bit above average, so you're getting a beneficial matchup for him if you're using last year's data. You're getting a game that's going to have a decent to average pace at 124. We're looking at pace here, how many plays are going to be projected for this game that I'm projecting. So give me Tony Pollard. I do like that. And then a couple other players that are just going to be standing out as very good plays. You have Dalvin Cook against Atlanta. If we go back over here, Atlanta last year, they were the nosebleed of a defense to the pass-catching running back. They've improved a little bit, got a little bit healthier, but nothing crazy there. They were giving up 25.2 fantasy points per game to the running back position. Now, everybody wants to get all gun-ho in terms of DraftKings points. This is FanDuel. If we go over here, this is DraftKings. So depending on which one you're using, fantasy draft, you can take an average. You could use either one. It's going to kind of pile right over there. But on DraftKings, 30 fantasy points a game to the running back position. Everybody gets all gun-ho that Atlanta was so terrible against pass-catching running backs, which is true. But last year, Kansas City was worse against pass-catching running backs. The Bengals were worse against pass-catching running backs. And so was the Arizona Cardinals. All three of those were just worse against running backs overall in terms of how many points they gave up. So, I mean, people like to kind of get all hyped up about it, Atlanta, because that sort of just became a trend. But there was other teams that were worse than them in terms of defending the running back position. So yes, with that said, I do think Dalvin Cook is a fine play. I do think that we'll put him in here for right now, but I'm not too sure that I want to get all the way to a Dalvin Cook because I think there's so many better options on this slate. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to just fill in a defense. We're literally going to pick a random ass defense, middle of the range defense, just so that we can fill out the rest of this lineup. Let's just do Buffalo against the Jets. Why not, right? 5,500, it's an average price defense. So now I can see actually what I have remaining for the rest of this. And let's get a tight end in here while we're doing this. Kelsey, obviously a fantastic tight end. Jacksonville was pretty stingy against him last year. A couple of guys that I'm interested in. Evan Ingram, I'm going to be very interested in because Evan Ingram is going to be the leading receiver if you don't count Saquon Barkley on this team. So Evan Ingram, if we draft him here, we still have $13,600 to spend. We have all the money in the world right now, gang. This is great. So Evan Ingram. Other tight ends, though, that do stand out to me on fantasy draft right here in terms of being underpriced. I think Evan Ingram is severely underpriced at $8,200. My God, that's so cheap. Hunter Henry kind of coming back right now, going to be starting. And let's look at what Indiana did last year against the tight end position. Indy against the tight end position last year was giving up points, 12.7 fantasy points. I thought so. They gave up the third most points on FanDuel to the tight end position, and they also, that translated over to DraftKings, they gave up the third most points last year across the two DFS sites as well as Fantasy Draft, I would imagine, to the tight end position. And if we kind of put Evan Ingram in there and we want to see what he did for comparison reasons, Dallas was giving up 10.9, so above average. So Indy last year, very bad against the tight end position. Hunter Henry, going to be sort of a guy who could potentially be a very good sleeper for week one. Evan Ingram, though, I'm imagining 8 to 10 targets. I would have Hunter Henry maybe around 5, 6 at best, but both are going to be really big red zone targets for their team. As we keep going down, Delaney Walker, 6,500, caught a touchdown week 2 of the preseason. He's just way too cheap. Very underpriced Delaney Walker for his skill set, and he gets Cleveland, who's just been atrocious against the tight end position as of late. Now, last year, their defense improved mightily, but still, tight end position. They gave up 11.9 fantasy points per game on FanDuel. They gave up 15.3 fantasy points per game, so 4th highest fantasy points per game on DraftKings last year, and then they gave up the 4th highest on FanDuel as well, so it correlated nicely there. Yeah, I think the best value, so Evan Ingram's going to have a lot of targets, but a very good value play here, and let's throw him in here, because why not? Very good value plays. Oh, got to get back to the tight ends. Is Delaney Walker. The man's just so cheap. And we're going to see what else we can do with the lineup. And if we can upgrade at tight end, then yeah, getting to some more targets makes sense. But Delaney Walker has been Marcus Mariota's favorite target since Mariota's been there. Now, last year, Walker injured his, I forgot what it was, broke his leg or something. The whole entire year he was out. I don't think it was an ACL, but the whole entire year he was out. Came back, looked pretty good in his first action in that preseason game. And I think he's going to be heavily targeted in that offense where, yes, they have A.J. Brown now. Yes, they still have Corey Davis, but the middle of the field is going to be patrolled by Delaney Walker. So we have so much money left over. I love this, $14,100 left over. And there is so much value at wide receiver. I can't even tell you how much there is. Don't worry, I'm going to get to some top-end running backs. But right now, I love this. This is fun. I like the 2 flex thing. I'm doing that in my fantasy league this year, and it should be pretty cool. Wide receiver, obviously, see all these Q tags and things like that. They're all going to be fine, right? Julio's still working through his deal. Odell's going to be fine for week 1. All these guys are going to be fine for week 1. Julian Edelman won't, so obviously, suspension issues. But a couple guys I'm interested in. First guy, who's kind of priced up compared to over on DraftKings, but over here, not too terribly. I like Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's going to be in the slot so much. He's probably going to be one of the most owned wide receivers. If we look at Tampa Bay and we look at what the 49ers did last year in terms of how many points they gave up to the wide receiver position, it was a good amount. 32.7 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. Now, obviously, that's not just Chris Godwin or just one wide receiver. It's all of them combined, right? 32.7, though, that's a hell of a lot. If we look at this quickly on FanDuel, that's going to be in the top 5, and if we translate that over to DraftKings where it was 39.7, that's also going to be top 5 ranked 5th. So top 5 in terms of points allowed last year. Not only is that fantastic in terms of they were a nosebleed of a defense, corrected it a little bit in the draft, but not too much. The 49ers did. Now you get Chris Godwin, who on all 12 snaps of Jameis Winston's preseason in game 1, played on all 12 of them, scored a touchdown, was in the slot anytime they went 3 wide. If you are a wide receiver and you're in the slot, you have such a big advantage over everybody else because, what I just said, you're bigger than them literally, and you can run so many different routes from there. The middle of the field is much easier to get open outside instead of the outside, right, where it's closer. It's just closer coverages. So Godwin, I love him. I like Mike Evans as well, but just getting to the cheaper Godwin who will be in the slot where I think there's much more upside, yes, I'm going to be getting there all day long. Second wide receiver. And let's keep scrolling. T.Y. is obviously always fine. Chargers, though, do have a good secondary. Cooper Kupp against Carolina. Now, Carolina last year was not the greatest against wide receivers, kind of middle of the pack, if anything, maybe a little bit below average. I do like Kupp. If he's fully healthy to go, he's going to be the main target for this team, the best tournament play to win something like this. But let's keep going to see if we can find value. DJ Moore reminds me of a player that I want to find right now. So DJ Moore is, for Carolina, is $10,400. These prices came out before things started happening in camp. For $8,800, so you're saving what there, like $1,600, you get Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel right now is being regarded as the number one wide receiver in camp. The number one wide receiver in camp for the Carolina Panthers is Curtis Samuel. Everything. He's catching touchdowns in all the practices. So fantasy draft can't change these price points. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the value you're getting. Delaney Walker is way too cheap. Curtis Samuel is way too cheap. Obviously, Tony Pollard is dirt cheap. You're getting way too much value in a Curtis Samuel who, if he's really the number one wide receiver, expect 7, 8, 10 targets upwards of there. Same for Chris Godwin in the slot. Expect 7, 8, 10 targets, even with Mike Evans out there, and upside around the red zone. Curtis Samuel brings you gadget-type plays as well as just being that number one de facto wide receiver in camp, shining over DJ Moore apparently right now. Now, I don't want to get too hyped up about Samuel and think that DJ Moore is not going to have a good year after he started to become sort of that hype play towards the end of the year last year. All I'm trying to say is that DJ Moore is more expensive. When you have a salary cap, you have to take advantage of the value. Right now, Curtis Samuel seems like he's providing excellent value. So look at that. We have $17,800 to spend, and boy, oh boy, we're putting Saquon Barkley right in there. And boy, oh boy, we're going to just put Christian McCaffrey right in there for right now. And we still have $2,200 left over. Holy cow, that's crazy, yo. All right, let's see what the flex prices are. You have Zeke. So Zeke obviously not in. Let's see if we can get up from Delaney Walker. Can we get up? Can we fit in our Evan Ingram? Oh my God, we can. This is fantastic. We could even go up at defense. So this is the first look lineup. I'm going to get the Saquon and McCaffrey. The running backs that you want are the pass-catching guys who will see 20 carries on the ground and potentially 8 to 10 targets in the air. So 30 opportunities for these guys. It's crazy. Zeke right now, it's in question. If Zeke is going to play, then I'll probably rather take Zeke against the Giants rather than Christian McCaffrey against the Rams. They're saying McCaffrey might lose some goal line duties, which is very worrisome, but still has a lot of pass-catching upside. But other than that, yeah, Melvin Gordon's still in contract issues. You do have David Johnson at $14,000 who's going to be interesting, so don't be worried about leaving money on the table or getting up at other positions. I like Lamar Jackson and his rushing upside and the price point. Tony Pollard is just an automatic free square. You're locking him into all of your lineups if indeed Zeke's not playing. $4,500 for a guy who's going to be going up against a bottom 5 defense last year that the Giants were against the run. In terms of fantasy points allowed, Dalvin Cook against Atlanta, they were bottom 4 in the league, bottom 3, I believe, overall. So, yes, Dalvin Cook, pass-catching guy. We can even probably get up from Dalvin Cook if we think about this. Let's see. Dalvin Cook, I have no issues getting to 12.5 Dalvin Cook, but if I wanted to, we can get to David Johnson at $14,000 here, and we can drop back down from Evan Ingram and I think I might do that. So let's go to David Johnson, and then let's get back down. $7,200 we have. Who can we afford here at $7,200 at the tight end position? Hunter Henry, we just missed by $100. Damn. We'll go back to Delaney Walker. Now we have $700 left. We can just go up at a defense, one that seems a little bit better. Cowboys against the Giants, nah. Cleveland against Tennessee, I do like that. So this is what I'm doing right now. We upgraded upgraded our defense. Now we have Delaney Walker against our defense, which probably isn't the best, but I still do think Mariota is good for a pick or two. So no big deal there. The defense doesn't matter too much. But we don't have any stacks, and I'm fine with that because Lamar Jackson, we're getting him mainly because of his rushing upside. He can get 11 fantasy points with 50 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground. That's why I want him. So I really don't care about stacking him with his wide receivers or none of his tight ends. I think all of his tight ends are pretty garbage. If you think Mark Andrews is going to be a good play this year, you're kind of dreaming. The guy was on 55% of their actual passing or all their snaps last year. No tight end on the field for 55% of the snaps is going to be value in season long, is going to be value in DFS. So yeah, this is where I'm at. David Johnson, I do think, is an upgrade from Dalvin Cook, but maybe not. So that's the one pivot point where I'll probably look in this first look lineup. Do I rather have David, and let me know that if you're still watching, do you rather have David Johnson and Delaney Walker, or do you rather have Dalvin Cook and Dalvin Cook against Atlanta, which seems like a really good spot if you're using recency bias from last year, and then Evan Ingram? I think I'd rather have Evan Ingram and Dalvin Cook, and I'm going to just change that back because I really don't know where I really don't know how you're not going to get that much upside out of Ingram here. Even with Saquon, those guys are going to have like at least 15 targets between the two of them, I imagine. And then you can still fit in Dalvin Cook as long as we go back down at our defense. I think this is a pretty good first look lineup. Again, if you're somebody who's going to come in here, take this lineup and run with it and think you're going to win a bunch of money, you're not. We're 2 weeks away from the regular season. Lots of things are going to change. More value is going to open up. But hopefully this helps. Check out Fantasy Draft. If you do me a favor, it helps me out. If you click the link down below to Fantasy Draft, it'll allow them to show that I brought some traffic to their site, which helps me out as a promoter from this video for them. So it just makes me look good. I appreciate it if you can do that. Yeah, down below, there's also some more stuff. Hit the subscribe button. Down below, there's my NFL Daily Fantasy course, and there's some other things. This is the first look lineup we're going with for Fantasy Draft. For right now, 2 weeks before, it's going to be edited. Maybe we'll do a first look at it to start the regular season. Definitely will for Draftkings. So my name's Sal. Best of luck to everybody. Again, the payout structure is just too good for this. $1 million tournament, 10% to first, 26% locked up in the top 10. It's way too good. It's rake-free if you want it to be. So go ahead, take advantage of it. My name's Sal. Best of luck to everybody. Peace out, gang.